Good morning, race fans, and welcome to Seattle, Washington, and the scene of the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce, and along with our H1 Unlimited live stream team, we're going to be covering all of the action here on Lake Washington. This should be a very good one. It's a big one, we already know that, but it should be a very good one. Last weekend in the Tri-Cities of Washington, we had some of the best racing, best side-by-side deck-to-deck racing we've had in years, and there is no reason to think this weekend will be any different. This is a different kind of big race. Last week was the APBA Gold Cup, and there is nothing bigger than the APBA Gold Cup. But now we come to Seattle, where most of our race teams have their headquarters. Many of our big sponsors are here in the greater Seattle area. So this is indeed a big one. And we've been racing here on Lake Washington on the Ted Jones race course since 1951. And so there is history there. There is a lot of memories here, a lot of passionate fans that have been watching boat racing for so many, many years. And we're kicking it off this morning with H1 Unlimited testing on the water. We've already got a boat on the water right now. You are looking at Andrew Tate in the U91, the Goodman Real Estate, as he powers up to the top end of the race course. It is the floating bridge turn here, the I-90 floating bridge, such a familiar sight in H1 Unlimited hydroplane racing. Here comes Andrew off the top end. He is the first boat to take to the water. So he is opening up the weekend, if you will, from the H1 standpoint, and our test session this morning is going to run until noon. It's going to go until 12 o'clock. So we've got plenty of time here on the water for our boats to come out and test. That is the idea this morning. We don't go racing or even qualifying until tomorrow. So this is just going to be a test session this morning. We expect it will be fairly active, as everybody wants to come out and test their boat on these different water conditions. We only traveled about 3.5 hours west from the Tri-Cities, but everything is different here. The air temperature is different. The humidity level is different, and that all affects the turbine engine. So they will be working to get those motors set up, and they'll also be looking for that gearbox, motor, skid fin, propeller combination that will work the best on this 2-mile race course. 2.5 miles last week in the Tri-Cities. Now we've got that shorter course, and it is a 2-mile variety. Ted Jones race course in Seattle. You're watching Andrew Tate as he powers down on another hard lap here into the bottom end of the race course. And then he will head back up in front of the log boom, which is now beginning to slowly fill in with boats. It will be jam-packed by the end of the weekend. Andrew Tate, we've got in with good news to report by those of the weekend who were paying attention and watching us last week in the Tri-Tate. We had 7 boats in the pit area and 7 boats in the of the Grand Wing. Lost a blade off at a propeller racing event for the APBA Gold Cup. Unfortunately, on Sunday B, and how much damage it can possibly do to a race boat. You're looking there at the U-27, the Apollo, the Miss Apollo hydroplane, fresh off that APBA Gold Cup victory in the Tri-Cities last week. Dave Villwock capturing Gold Cup number 11 and win number 68. Just let some of those numbers sink in a little bit. He is the winningest driver in the history of H1 Unlimited, and he ties Chip Hanauer with 11 Gold Cups. Chip Hanauer is in the pit area this weekend. He was at the driver's meeting. So Dave's running hard up toward the top end, and he's going to encounter his teammate Andrew Tate, who's just now coming off the top end of the race course. You saw him flash by there on the screen. Both of them running hard toward the start-finish line right now. Andrew went very, very slowly up the backstretch and was just timing his way to the line. There you have Dave coming across. Just getting used to these different water conditions, and they are very different. But I want to go back to what I started to say before we realized Dave was on the course. Jeff Bernard threw a blade off the propeller on the U-12, the Graham Trucking, on Sunday morning. Caused a lot of damage to the bottom of the boat. The boat was not in the pit area here, the Stansair's pits yesterday during setup day, but as I walked in the pits this morning, there it was. The boat is here, and they are ready to go. Everybody said they were very, very pleased with the work that was done on it and said it is probably better than it was. So the U-12 Graham Trucking is in the pit area, and we have a 7-boat field for the Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. It's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair, Lake Washington in Seattle. Brad Luce here. We've got everything covered. We'll have our pit reporters. We'll be down in the Stansair's pit area. That will be Erica Allreed and Brent Hall will be keeping us up to speed on everything going on down there. And then I will be joined up here at start finish by Tanner Faust. So Andrew looks as though he is going to head back to the pit area, and what you're looking at there is a very, very slow U-27 and Dave Villwock up at the north end of the race course. This is the floating bridge turn. There you see the cars on the I-90 floating bridge there in the background. See if Dave doesn't come off this corner, and at some point right here, find the accelerator, put his foot in it, and time his way down to the start-finish line. Dave actually employed a similar start procedure last week in the Tri-Cities. He was coming out of the pit area, going very slow up the backstretch, and then would just work his way into his start procedure. See what Dave does here when he gets to the exit pin. Still moving very slowly up there. And now he pops it up. Is he going to put his foot all the way in it and try and bring it up? Does not appear so. So whatever Dave is testing up there, it's not necessarily a run to the start-finish line, although there he goes. Now he puts his foot down a little bit. Dave Villwock, fresh off that Gold Cup victory in the Tri-Cities on the Columbia River. Not going to be near as hot here this weekend as it was over in the Tri last weekend. We saw temperatures in the mid to upper 90s in the Tri-Cities last week. Had absolutely beautiful water conditions and racing conditions over there. Teams are going to find it much cooler over here. We hope to get to 80 degrees today, and looks like Saturday and Sunday they're calling for mid to upper 70s. So should be very comfortable here as Dave powers through the top end of the race course. And again, this is the older of the two U-27 Miss Apollos that the BWR racing team has. Dave crashed the newer boat, the boat that was built last year by Wiggins Racing. They crashed that boat in Gunnarsville, and we fully expected we were going to see it back on the water in the Tri-Cities, and many were surprised when it was this boat, the 2007 hull, that showed up in the Tri-Cities, the boat affectionately known as Sharky. And with that win last weekend, the Sharky hull is now the second winningest hull in the history of unlimited hydroplane racing, with 26 victories, and this boat now has claimed 5 APBA Gold Cups and 8 National High Points Championships. So if there is a good pedigree down in the pit area, certainly this would be one of the boats you would want to add to that list. The U-27 Miss Apollo, there you are, getting a good look at it here in the early morning sun, and it's a little bright there on the water as Dave goes right in front of the sun. You're looking due east across the race course there, so you're looking right into the teeth of that sunshine. By late this afternoon, it will be behind us, and we'll have better shots on the water. But right now, we are enjoying what is a very pretty morning here in the Pacific Northwest. We are live on the shores of Lake Washington. I'm Brad Luce. It's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. Dave Villwock going to drift his way back toward the dock. We've got lots queued up for you this weekend. I mentioned the test session that is going to run until approximately 12 o'clock, depending on needs and wants of the boats. I'm looking there in the pit area, see if we've got some other boats coming out. It appears as though J. Michael Kelly's U-8 is in the water, and just beside him and to the right, that appears to be the U-9 of Corey Peabody, the Beacon Plumbing. So clearly we'll have some more boats out on the water here shortly. But coming up later on today, and later on today is going to be just about right after noon, NASCAR legend Jimmie Johnson is going to climb aboard the former Blue Blaster that was driven by Bill Muncy, the late great Bill Muncy, and there is a long story involved in that whole coming together of this particular event. But Jimmie Johnson, the NASCAR legend, is going to take the Blue Blaster Atlas Van Lines out on the Ted Jones racecourse and run a few laps around here. He was at the drivers' meeting this morning. Everybody was meeting with him. He's already had his first ride out on Lake Washington. He was out with the museum director, David Williams, and getting acclimated to the racecourse here on Lake Washington. But he is going to take the boat out himself after 12 o'clock today. You won't want to miss that. We will definitely have it covered for you. And as I said, there's a whole long story involved in that, and it's quite a good one, and it goes back definitely to when Jimmy was 4 years old in 1970. But we will get to that later on. Right back to Corey Peabody in the U9 to Beacon Plumbing is out on the Ted Jones racecourse running the backstretch. Corey Peabody has not had the best of luck here in Seattle in the past. Up until last weekend, since Corey had joined Strong Racing in 2020, Corey Peabody had never lost an event that he entered on the Columbia River, but he did not have that kind of luck here on Seattle's Lake Washington. He would most definitely like to turn that around this weekend and get a victory here. Corey didn't claim the Gold Cup last weekend, but aside from a gun jump in the final heat, which cost him an APBA Gold Cup, from a point standpoint, Corey had an outstanding weekend. He was our second fastest qualifier, and he ran and won 4 individual preliminary heats. Up the backstretch there, I'm looking at our testing time on there, a testing speed for Andrew Tate of 158 miles per hour. I'm questioning that just a little bit. That seems like an incredibly fast time. We will get somebody to check that and make sure that is correct, but 158 miles an hour. That's really something. Dave Villwock is on that list there with a quick lap of a $1:47. That sounds a little bit better as Corey flies the U9 down to the lower end of the race course, picking up the right spots. And water conditions are definitely good right now, but they're also very different from what they played against last week in the Tri-Cities on the Columbia River. So the guys will get used to it. This is a difficult race course. All the drivers will tell you where Corey is right now up the backstretch. The waves that he creates go over to that log boom. They hit the log boom in the stern of those boats, and then those rollers come right back onto the race course, and they're parallel to the line of travel of the hydroplane, and that makes it extremely difficult. A 1:46 for Corey on his first lap. And Corey pulls his foot out of it as he comes across that last time. See if he's got a better one. Yeah, 1:48. That seems, that's a pretty quick lap for Corey. I'm still questioning that 1:58. Now, I might be wrong in doing so, but not having a bunch of notes in front of me, that seems awfully fast. Now it appears as though Corey will spend a little time and maybe come up with some timing marks here on the Ted Jones racecourse. For those of you who may be new and watching this for the very first time, H1 Unlimited hydroplane racing is a little bit different. Our start procedure when we go racing is pretty much different than all other forms of motorsports, in that we have a clock start. Everything is timed, and the boats cannot come out on the water until 5 minutes before the beginning of the race. And there will be a very specific mark 5 minutes before the start of the race. The boats will come out, and when they leave the dock, they do not know the lane in which they will be racing. They fight for the lanes. We've seen a couple of the boats come out here this morning and cut across the race course from the front stretch to the back stretch and back stretch to the front stretch and not go all the way around the race course. That is a legal maneuver, and there are certain places on the race course where they can and can't make such a cut. And This is all to allow for this fight for lane procedure where you can cut the course and get ahead of somebody before the racing starts, et cetera, et cetera. The whole 5 minutes before the start is about putting your boat in the best possible position to have an advantage on the other boats, either by lane or the amount of boat speed you have, et cetera, et cetera. So they will come out of the pit area. They will mill, as they will. We call it the milling period. We also sometimes call it the race before the race because it can be as important as the actual racing itself. And then after that 5-minute period, the boats will be, when the clock strikes 0, the idea is to have your boat at the start-finish line at full song in an open lane and clean water right when the clock strikes 0. If you are across the line before it strikes 0, you get a 1-minute penalty added to your time and speed for the event. You're not going to win. If you're a couple of ticks late at the line, you're probably going to trail everybody into turn 1, and you're going to have the same result. You're probably not going to win the heat. So it's very precise, and that's why they have to know exactly how long it takes them to get from point A to point B. And this is what Corey is doing out here on the race course right now. He's finding out at this particular speed, whatever he is running, which is probably in the neighborhood of 80 miles per hour, exactly how long does it take him to get around the race course. Then when he gets to the top end of the course where he is now, he puts his foot in it, and he's going to come down here as fast as he possibly can. And he's got spotters and timers here that will tell him exactly how long it took him to get, boom, from, say, the center of the race course up at the north end to the start-finish line here right out in front of us. You'll see how it all plays out once we go racing. It will make perfect sense to you. It sounds a little confusing, but the idea is come out on a race course 5 minutes before the race starts and put your boat eventually on the start-finish line as fast as Corey was just going. They're charged to the line, maybe from a different lane, because that's the other piece to this puzzle. You get your timing marks all set up. You know exactly how long it takes you to get from the entrance to the corner where Corey is now to the start-finish line, but that might be in lane 1, and then when you go out and go racing, you find yourself out in lane 5 or 6. Obviously, that timing mark's not going to be as good. See if Corey doesn't put his foot in it here as he rounds the top end of the course. And yeah, now he does. So he had a late charge there. It was actually appeared to be after he went past the exit buoy of turn 2. So just timing from a different point on the race course. And then he crossed start finish line and immediately pulled his foot. Got some of the information he wanted. Now we'll see if he stays out there a little bit more. And this is absolutely critical to the racing. We mentioned that if you were to jump across the start-finish line prior to the clock striking 0, you get a 1-minute penalty added to your time for the heat, and you're not going to win. Unfortunately, for 3 boats, we saw that last weekend in the Tri-Cities. It cost Corey Peabody. It cost his teammate J. Michael Kelly a shot at the APBA Gold Cup. Corey was the winner on the water, but he had gotten across the line too soon and therefore got a 1-minute penalty. So did his teammate J. Michael Kelly, and also the U-21 with Gunnar O'Farrell. They also jumped the start in the Tri-Cities. So you got to be legal. You can be really, really fast, but you've got to be legal. That's first and foremost. Corey is going to come down here slowly, and I believe he is going to come back toward the Stansaires Memorial Pit area. Meanwhile, out on the race course, we have another of our H1 unlimited hydroplanes on the water. And that is going to be the U-21, the Spirit of America. I had to look a little bit in the bright sun because this boat last week in the Tri-Cities, for those of you that were watching, was all white, and now they've got the color on the boat now, and the decks are gold, and there's a lot of blue on the cowling. And in that bright sun, quite honestly, for a moment I thought perhaps we were looking at the U-11 as FLAV-R-PAC, but no, that is the U-21 with Gunnar O'Farrell, and I've quickly learned I'm going to have to pay close attention to those 2 boats when they're on the water. Gunnar was a big surprise in the Tri-Cities last weekend. The last time prior to the Tri-Cities we saw Gunnar was at the test session at the early part of June over in the Tri-Cities when Gunnar got the boat upside down and blew it over in a rather spectacular crash. And they didn't race back east with the circuit, but they joined us in Tri-Cities, and Gunnar had a terrific day over there. He had quite a few points. He was just quietly accumulating second and third place finishes along the way, got himself in the final heat. He was quick. He was very quick in the final. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, he jumped the start, so it was all for naught. But coming out of turn one and headed down the backstretch for a brief moment there, Gunnar O'Farrell was in third place for the APBA Gold Cup. I talked to the young man yesterday, and they were very proud of their performance in the Tri-Cities, and I think they should be. I think that was a good weekend for them. Unfortunately, they didn't get the boat wrapped. They didn't get the gold and the red, white, and blue on it as they had hoped, so it was pretty much a white hull over in the Tri-Cities. But now they've got the whole thing wrapped. It looks much better. It's real pretty in the pit area. Boat looks good, and Gunnar is doing extremely well driving this boat. They did a lot of work in the off season. The idea was to see if they couldn't make the boat a little more aerodynamic and a little faster by putting a little more air underneath it and giving Gunnar a little bit faster ride. I think they have accomplished that. I know the crew's happy. But Gunnar O'Farrell, what's he got there? A lap at 123 and a lap at 129. Obviously, Gunnar not pushing anything out there. The boat is capable of much more than that. And we'll see if Gunnar doesn't do one of these timing runs. Looks like Gunnar has started to accelerate a little bit up there in the top end. And again, he's got spotters here on the shoreline, and they're in communication with each other. They're talking with Gunnar, and they tell him, put your foot in it now, and we'll time your way to the line. So that's what we're seeing here with Gunnar O'Farrell in the U-21 Spirit of America. Gunnar just going slowly around the bottom end of the race course. Again, this is a test session. It's a testing session only for H1 Unlimited. And we've got the course. I believe we have the water until noon. Boats can come out up to 3 at a time. And we've see if Gunnar doesn't take a little different line through the corner. He's accelerated just about the entrance to turn number 2. Looks like he's sliding out a little wider, and this is something we saw him do a lot of in the Tri-Cities. He ran all weekend on the outside. He qualified on the outside, he tested on the outside, and he raced on the outside. Gunnar will come across. And what that does is it pretty much, when he does do that, if he runs such a wide line, he's still getting timed on a 2-mile race course, so that tends to understate his speed. So if he's running way on the outside and turning a lap at, say, 129 as he had there on lap 2, that's probably a substantially faster lap given the size of the race course he ran when he did it. But this is all about testing. It's all about finding where your boat responds the best, where you feel you can get the best ride for your boat, and where there eventually or inevitably you can have your most success with the boat. So Gunnar out now, just getting reacclimated and reacquainted. And Gunnar looks like one more time has put his foot in it there just as he got to the entrance pin of the top end of the race course. And this time Gunnar's going to come way on the outside. He's going to come down right up against the outside course markers on this one. Gunnar O'Farrell, U-21 Spirit of America. Flying the boat a little bit as he comes across. And again, like the other guys did, he pulls his foot as he gets across start-finish line. U21, the Spirit of America from the racing team of Go Fast Turn Left Racing. Gunnar resides in Maple Valley, Washington, which is just east of where we are. And in fact, looking straight across the race course, you out there and then south just a little bit, you'll be in a beautiful area of Maple Valley, Washington. I believe that boat you're looking at there, I think I saw some appendages on the inside of the left sponson, and if so, that will be J. Michael Kelly in the U8, the Beacon Electric. Now, you want to talk about a guy that has had luck here on Lake Washington. How about this kid, J. Michael Kelly? He has tied, last year he tied legendary driver Bill Munsey as only the second man to ever score 4 consecutive wins on Lake Washington. So he's got 4 in a row going for him, and here comes our winner for the last 4 years on Lake Washington. It is J. Michael Kelly, U8, the Beacon Electric. And right with him, just on the outside, is Gunnar O'Farrell. You're going to see him hit the screen here momentarily. You'll see Gunnar come in on the right-hand side. There goes Gunnar. As Mike finds his way down to the bottom end of the course, Mike came out of the pit area, and we've got him on the clock now for the first time. We'll see what kind of a speed we might get from the young man. J. Michael Kelly resides down in Bonnie Lake, Washington. Young man went to Kent Meridian High School in the Kent-Auburn Valley, just south of Seattle. Here comes Mike off the top end. This is such a pretty race boat, and Mike loves to fly this one. He loves to pick that right sponson up and just hang it above the water and make everybody really nervous. But his boat is a quick one, and Mike usually picks up a victory, at least one a season somewhere along the way, and very recently it's been here in Seattle. Mike has yet to taste victory on the H1 circuit for 2025. He would like to become the first man and the only man to win 5 in a row here on the famous Ted Jones race course. And this is a big one for the drivers and teams. I mentioned that many of the teams are based here. So are many of the drivers. This is hometown. These are home waters. And for many of them, they grew up watching hydroplane racing right here on Lake Washington. And then to come back and actually race on this same body of water, it's a little extra special for them. They put a little bit more toward it. Mike pulled his foot as he came out of the top end of the race course. I was going to keep an eye on him there, see what he was going to do. I thought possibly he might cut the course and go over to the backstretch. He did not. And meanwhile, we're up at the top end. Gunnar, they must have put a lot of fuel in Gunnar's boat. He's out there just enjoying a nice Friday morning tour around Lake Washington. Gunnar O'Farrell, U21 Spirit of America. This boat has stickers on the boat, medallions, if you will, for all the branches of our military service. This is a salute to our military personnel by the U21 Go Fast Turn Left racing team and boat racing under the name of the Spirit of America. Now you're looking at J. Michael Kelly up at the very top end of the race course. See if Mike doesn't do some sort of a timing maneuver. It seems very redundant, and it is, but everybody's got to go do it. They all have to make these runs and see how long it takes to get from point A to point B, and it looks like Mike's going to time himself off the exit pin. There's the exit buoy right there. He goes around that buoy, and the question's going to be, when will he put his foot in it? If he's going to, and boy, if he's going to, he's going to come from deep in the hole, if you will. He's going to have to really pick the boat up out of the water. He's pretty much at that exit buoy right now. And Mike looks like he's now trying to pick it back up, but it's not coming up very quick. And that's one of the problems we've seen. That's what Mike was trying to do. He was trying to time it off the exit pin, but he got down so far in the water that it took him a long time to get it back up and out and up and running. And these guys have to be very careful if they get too far ahead of themselves and have to slow down too far, they can pull their foot out of it, and these motors can go down to what they call ground idle. And then basically it's a restart procedure to get the motors going again, and then it's to get the boat out of the water and get it up on plane is a process. And we saw that cost Andrew Tate dearly last weekend in his fourth preliminary heat. He dropped down to ground idle. It basically took him out of competition for the heat before it even started, and unfortunately it cost the young man a spot on the front row and a chance at winning the APBA Gold Cup. So they've got to be careful about that. They can slow down, that's fine. The 80-mile-an-hour rule is off the table. But at the end of the day, you don't want to slow down too far because you might drop all the way down to ground idle and off a plane, and then it'll take you too long to get back up and running. I think Mike has seen what he wants to see. Gunnar, I believe, has headed back to the pit area, and I think Mike is going to follow him back. And if that's the case, we have seen 5 of our 7 H1 Unlimiteds out on the water. Andrew Tate still sitting there with a lap of 158.332 miles per hour. Corey Peabody at 148, Villwock at 147, and Kelly just cruised around slowly with a 136. Gunnar O'Farrell at 129. We're not qualifying, we're simply testing this morning. We will not go qualifying until tomorrow morning, Saturday. We got the countdown clock going there. I don't have my watch in front of me, but let's take a look, see. And we are at about 9:20, and we've got about 2 hours left. So it looks like we're going to time this thing out to about 11:20, 11:30 for our testing session. And then we're going to get ready to go with the Jimmie Johnson demonstration here, as he will be out on the race course in the famous 1977 Atlas Van Lines, the Blue Blaster that Bill Muncy drove so very, very well. I mentioned that Chip Hanauer had tied Bill Muncy by winning the last 4 races here on Lake Washington in a row, and he did indeed do that. When Bill Muncy did it, it was in the Blue Blaster, and it was 1977 through 1980. Again, it is the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce. I am on the start-finish line tower overlooking what is a beautiful Lake Washington this morning. And Seafair has come back to Seattle. The hydroplanes are on Lake Washington, and as I like to say and usually do a couple of times, all is right in Hydroland. We've got hydroplanes on Lake Washington. I'm going to take a break. We don't have anybody on the water right now. I'm going to step away for just a moment, but as soon as we have more activity on the water, we will be back and cover it for you again. This is the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce, and I just got it in my ear. I can't see around the corner here. The FLAV-R-PAC is out on the water, so we'll put that break on hold. The guys in the truck keeping me up to speed so far, and much appreciated. Jamie Nielsen is away. There is the blue and yellow Miss FLAV-R-PAC U11. Jamie Nielsen, the boat is owned by Scott and Shannon Rainey out of Cle Elum, Washington. I say this all the time, but it's true. If you don't know where Cle Elum is and you take a state of Washington map and stick your finger right in the middle of it, you won't be too far from Cle Elum, Washington, just off of I-90. Jamie resides in Gig Harbor, Washington, which is south of Seattle and Tacoma on Puget Sound, right down at the very bottom end. It's a beautiful little town. Actually, you go just south of Tacoma and then get on the Tacoma Narrows Bridge and go over to a sleepy little community of Gig Harbor. It's a beautiful little spot, some outstanding vistas and beautiful views of Mount Rainier, and that is where Jamie Nielsen calls home, and he's going to come off smartly off the top end of the race course. Jamie had a very, very good weekend last weekend in the Tri-Cities. He finished on the podium. He was our second-place finisher in the APBA Gold Cup. Jamie Nielsen, Miss FLAV-R-PAC, across the line. Jamie, of course, it's well documented. The former baseball player, very successful baseball player at Central Washington University in Ellensburg, which is, again, on I-90, not very far from Cle Elum. And he had such a great career there in Central Washington that he actually spent a year in the Kansas City Royals farm system. And he will be the first to tell you it wasn't because of his glove. This guy could hit. This guy could hit. He is a member of the Central Washington University Hall of Fame. Quite the athlete, Jimmie Nielsen, but now he enjoys sitting behind the wheel of a 200-mile-an-hour unlimited hydroplane. Jimmie Johnson in the U11, the Miss FLAV-R-PAC. Boats looking really good. They were on the podium in Madison. They are on the podium in Tri-Cities. They've gone from the third step to the second step. The next logical one seems to be at the top of the podium, and nobody would like to be there any more than they would. Jimmie got his first drive in an H1 unlimited hydroplane in 2010 at the Seattle Seafair. So right here, a bit of an anniversary of sorts, 15 years ago when he got his first ride. And that was in a boat that was owned by Billy and Jane Schumacher. And that's when Jimmie, a very accomplished limited inboard driver, spent many years in those ranks, loves to race outboard hydroplanes. That's how he got started, he and his dad. And this guy's just been racing boats his entire life. And he's now at the pinnacle of the sport, has yet to grab a victory, but one of these days it's going to happen for Jimmie Johnson. First lap, good speeds out there, 146 miles per hour for Jimmie on lap 1, 145 on lap 2. Those are good. Those are good speeds. Still looking at that 158 up there for Andrew Tate. Nice line through the top end of the race course as Jimmie Johnson will come down and put another one in the book. Quick one so far, 146. Has he got a faster one? Got the boat nice and light on the water. And he pulls his foot as soon as he comes across. So, I think I saw it there. Did I see a 148 real quick? We'll have it back up there momentarily. Jimmie did not, 148.309, so a good one there. He's right behind Corey Peabody, and if you're in Corey Peabody's neighborhood, that's a pretty good hood to be in. So a good run there for Jimmie Johnson, and I think now he will spend a little time getting reacquainted himself with the 2-mile Ted Jones race course here. Jimmie has a knack, and everybody loves to talk about it, me included. He has a knack for getting an inside lane. And if you can get an inside lane here on this shorter 2-mile race course and get the jump on the field and dictate position to boats behind you, he could be a difficult boat to drive around. Look for Jimmie to do that in the racing. He's doing this timing mark right now in lane number 1. Just a good-looking boat here out on the Ted Jones race course. U11, the Miss FLAV-R-PAC. Jimmie stepped out of it as soon as he got across the start-finish line, still on the race course, obviously. I mentioned Jimmie being a very accomplished driver in other classes of boats. He was inducted into the APBA Hall of Champions back in 2000 and 2002. He is a very, very accomplished driver, and he grew up racing against the likes of J. Michael Kelly and Corey Peabody in Region 10. You saw that maneuver that Jimmie just did there, cutting the race course from the back stretch to the front stretch. That is a perfectly legal maneuver. And it's looking like Jimmie may be heading back to the pit area, and I think that's what he's doing. But that could very well have been what he was going to do, run a timing mark and just understand how long it takes to get around the race course if he cuts it short, because that'll all be a part of this 5-minute milling period that we will make very clear to you. If you're a new fan, we'll make it very easy for you to understand. Once you see it happen during a heat, you'll have it, and it'll all make sense to you. But it's all done on a clock. And that is the idea. Put your boat at start-finish line when the clock strikes 0. So now the only boat we have yet to see on the water is the U12. And that is the Graham Trucking, and I quite honestly would not expect to see them this early. There we got a good look at the pit area, and right there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you can see the Graham Trucking, the U-12. You can see the boat on the trailer there. Right next to it is the U-21, the Spirit of America. You see now they've got the gold decks and so forth on it. And then it's up on the other side of the crane. You see the GP-17, the Miss Renee in there, and then on around to the Apollo and the 91. And then up there on the left-hand side of the screen, just underneath our testing speeds, you see the strong racing trucks up there. That's where the 8 and the 9 are pitted. So we're just getting started here at Seafair. It's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. Brad Luce here along with our full broadcast team and broadcast crew. We will have reports from Brent Hall in the pit area. Erica Allreed will be with us as always, and Tanner Faust will be joining me here up at start-finish line. It appears quiet there in the pit area, and unless our producer comes in my ear and says there's a boat in the water I can't see now, I will take that break we were going to do. I will step away. It is the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. Brad Luce here. Don't go away. We'll be right back as soon as we get our next H1 Unlimited on the water. Stand by. Welcome back to the start-finish line on Seattle's Lake Washington, the Ted Jones Racecourse. We are here for the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce. I am right at this start-finish line tower, and we're just getting underway here for the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup. It's day one of 3. We are in the middle of a test session, and we've had 6 of our 7 H1 Unlimited hydroplanes out on the water. And now what you can hear in the background and see on the screen, we've got our Grand Prix hydroplanes out on the water. And the boat you're looking at right there, the GP10, driven by Kevin Ekert, and they call this boat the Freak. They call it the Freak. Says it in great big letters on the deck up above the sponson. This boat is a Goodman. Boat is owned by Brian Richards out of Snohomish. They did a lot of work on this boat during the off season. They changed the look on it. They changed the profile a bit. You see it there as you look at it coming off the bottom end of the race course. He is not alone out on the race course. However, you're going to see boats go, and you're going to see the Freak go by a boat there up the backstretch. I think that is Josh Harnack that he's coming up on there. Yeah, that'll be Josh Harnack there in the GP12. We also have the GP15, Happy Go Lucky, the old Trapper beef jerky hydroplane is on the water, as is Cool Cat Motorsports. So we've got 4 of our Grand Prix hydroplanes. We have 6 of them here. Excuse me, check that. We have 7 of them here for this weekend's racing. As you see the Cool Cat Motorsports there, that's the boat on the right, and there goes Josh Harnack. And then we switch over to the very, very low distinctive profile of the old Trapper beef jerky, the GP15, Happy Go Lucky Racing, with Greg Hopp behind the wheel. Jerry Hopp, his dad, will be talking to him on the headset, as they always do. And they were the big winners in the Tri-Cities 1 week ago. This boat, it's one of the older hulls. It's not near as wide as some of the newer boats that you will see on the water, but boy, you wind this one up in a straight line and it can flat get with the program. He is Greg Hopp. Coming down, making a hard charge at the line. GP15, Happy Go Lucky Racing, the old Trapper beef jerky. Going to be followed across the line. You're going to see it there. Cool Cat Motorsports. That's John Shaw, and Josh Harnack comes across right with him. As I say, we have 7 Grand Prix hydroplanes here this weekend. Looking at Josh right there in the GP12. Boat sponsored by Caveman Kitchen. I want to thank them for their participation. The GP12 Caveman Kitchen, Josh Harnack. That's him at the top end. Good looking race boat there. They had a tough weekend in the Tri-Cities. They're looking to rebound here this weekend and have a much better showing than they did a week ago, and they're going to bring it back into the pit area, and we pan right over to the old Trapper beef jerky. There was the GP10. The Freak was in the foreground as Greg powers down to the bottom end of the race course. Profile a little bit there. I think I got fooled the last time around. I think the profile on the GP10, the Freak, started to approximate that of the Cool Cat Motorsports if you look into this bright sun. So I think I may have had those wrong. We've got it straightened out now. At least I do in my own mind. You're looking at the Cool Cat Motorsports GP 135. Boat owned by Ed Thompson out of Street, Maryland. Driven by John Shaw out of Centerville, Maryland. Off the top end of the course. It looks like we may have lost our picture there for a minute, but this boat is extremely fast. They had troubles with the boat on Saturday over in the Tri-Cities and did not run well at all. They ran much better on Sunday, and if they've got things dialed in, I know they spent time up at the GP10 shop up in Snohomish, and if they've got things wired up for that boat for this weekend, Cool Cat Motorsports and John Shaw could be one you're going to want to pay attention to. Looking at Greg Hopp there in that low profile old Trapper beef jerky, and I think we've got the GP17, the Miss Renee, coming away from the dock. Awesome Austin Ekrit behind the wheel of that one. Austin Ekrit had a lead for us in the final heat over in the Tri-Cities, but unfortunately he jumped the start, and we had an interesting conversation with him about that following the evening over in the Tri-Cities. One of the just super, super nice people in all of hydroplane racing, Austin Ekrit. And that is the boat you're looking at there, the GP17. They changed the color scheme and the paint scheme on it this year. The boat is just beautiful with a kind of a soft powder blue and white GP17, the Miss Renee, owned by Brian Richards, driven by Austin Ekrit. Cool Cat Motorsports, there's that GP135. You see the little tail fin on there, and that's what I think the silhouette of that boat kind of got me a little confused against the GP10 when they were out there on the water. I will make a note to be on top of that and not get fooled. And now you're looking at Austin as he pounds it down into the bottom end of the race course. Austin's running hard right now. Got the water to himself. Tough to tell from here who that other GP is out there. I believe it is the GP79. I think that is Jeff Bernard that may be out there with Austin Ekrit at the top end of the race course. I'll get a better look at it when he comes down here in just a moment. But meanwhile, we continue to watch the 17 with awesome Austin, and that is indeed Jeff Bernard. There's Jeffy. Jeff had a tough break in the Tri-Cities last week. He was leading the final heat and lost power. Something broke in the boat. Did not finish. It was a tough day all the way around for Jeff in Tri-Cities. Sunday, he threw the blade off the propeller of the U12, the Graham Trucking, and that put an end to his day there. And then he ended the day in the final heat of the Grand Prix at the end of a tow rope. So a tough weekend for Jeff Bernard. He'd like to turn it around on both fronts here this weekend. And he is right now alone on the water. Watching Jeff through the top end of the boat, top end of the race course. The boat owned by Mike Grindell out of Webster, Massachusetts. Boat sponsored by Thai Ginger. How about that? With GP79 Thai Ginger and Jeff Bernard. Jeff only knows one way to go racing, and that is full bore. And he's always at it, and you give him a golf cart and put a big enough motor in it, this guy's going to want to drive it. It's what he does. If you talk to him, it's what he do. He like it, the GP79. Bad Influence, running under the name of Thai Ginger this weekend. Jeff Bernard out of Covington, Washington. Got the water to himself right now. We've had 6 of our 7 Grand Prix boats out on the water. The only boat we are awaiting is the GP5, and they have not run yet this year. We expect them to be out at some point today. The boat is owned by David and Chris Grant. Chris Grant will be behind the wheel of GP5. And this one's got an interesting color scheme on it. We'll make sure when this boat gets on the water, we get one of our drones or one of our really tight camera shots on it, because you're going to want to see this boat up close. I'm not even sure where I would begin to describe the colors and the scheme. To say it's different would be an understatement. But it'll be definitely something you can't miss on the water. GP5 of Grant Racing. When they get on the water, we'll make sure to talk about it. You'll see it. Meanwhile, it's Jeff Bernard in the 79. Ty Ginger. And Jeff has pulled his foot. He will come slowly across the start-finish line, and we'll see if Jeff heads back to the pit area. I believe that's what he will do. The racing format for our Grand Prix hydroplanes is similar to that of our H1 Unlimiteds, with the one big exception. I mentioned that our H1 Unlimited hydroplanes come out and they fight for their lane. They do not know what lane they are in when they leave the pit area and come out to go race. Our Grand Prix boats, on the other hand, they do. They race in an assigned lane format. They still run on a clock start, but their lane is already assigned to them. And the idea of Grand Prix racing is, they like to call it win your way in. The more you can win, the better lane you can have for the final heat later on in the day when they bring out the big trophy. So you earn your lane position in the final by how well you run during the weekend. So we'll be keeping an eye on that when our Grand Prix boats are on the water. And while we have a bit of a break here, I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier, because I'm going to be honest, I was questioning the speed of Andrew Tate as he went out, and we put on our screen that he had run a lap of 158 miles per hour, and that seemed awfully fast. So I did a little bit of research while we took the break. The fastest Lake Washington 2-mile qualification lap was turned by Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser in 1999. Now, that was pre-fuel restriction, and he turned that lap at 163.451 miles per hour, 163.451. But since that time, the fastest qualifying speed I could find on the 2-mile Seattle race course was a 2-lap average, a Gold Cup qualifying speed of Andrew Tate. And this was back in 2023, so just a couple of years ago when the Gold Cup was here. Andrew qualified at a 2-lap average of 154.462, 154.462 miles an hour. He turned that lap this morning at 158, so that starts to put into perspective the speed that Andrew laid down this morning, turning a lap at 158 miles per hour. It was legit. I talked to the stat man. The stat man also questioned it. He didn't believe it and wanted to confirm it. He pulled it back up on the screen and retimed it. He retimed it off the videotape. He got the same answer. So 158's definitely legit. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, it did. It cleared the tech truck. So the only thing that all that says, that entire dissertation just simply pointed out Andrew Tate had and has a mighty fast race boat, and everything was clean and legal about it. So it's quiet here on the Ted Jones race course right now for a couple of moments here. I see the chief referee walking around with a bag of popcorn here, so that tells me we probably don't have a boat going out on the water in the next couple of minutes, and he's just smiling at me over there. So don't have a boat going just yet on the water, but we will have more activity out here at some point soon. Again, is a 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. We want to thank Bruce Rashford and his group for stepping up for the second year in a row and sponsoring our event here in Seattle. Apollo Mechanical, based out of the Tri-Cities, a company that was founded by Bruce himself back in 1981. He and his family started with a small sheet metal shop in the Tri-Cities. It is now the 5th largest mechanical contractor in the United States. So a big deal, and Bruce is very, very bullish on the sport of unlimited hydroplane racing. And I've said it in the Tri-Cities, I'll say it here, and I'm sure I will one more time at least in San Diego. If you have not yet had the opportunity to get introduced to Bruce Ratchford, make sure you do. This is somebody who is very, very much involved in H1 Unlimited. He is a partner with Daryl Strong in Hydrotown that handles the marketing operations for the sport. He's very involved in that. He is very involved on the board of directors for H1 Unlimited. This guy is a big part of our sport, and he's becoming a larger part of our sport with each passing day. Make sure if you have the opportunity, you get to meet Bruce Ratchford. The same would be true of Daryl Strong. If you have not met Daryl, both of these people are extremely approachable. They love our sport, as our fans do. They're passionate about the sport, as our fans are. Make sure you make that effort if you have the opportunity. Bruce Ratchford and Daryl Strong. Speaking of our H1 Unlimited Board of Directors, we also have Mike Denslow. He's the chairman of the board. He is here this weekend. He's here from the Tri-Cities. Another member of our board is Charlie Grooms out of Madison, Indiana. Charlie is a member of our board and has been for a number of years. Shannon Rainey, part owner with her husband Scott of the U11, the Miss FLAV-R-PAC hydroplane. She too is a member of our board of directors. And they are all here this weekend, all of the leadership group of H1 Unlimited. And they're here to see the show, and I can speak firsthand as being a part of that board. We love to hear from you. We love to hear from the fans. We are doing everything we possibly can. Sometimes if we can't see our hands in front of our face and you think we're missing something, it's appreciated if you come up and stop one of us and say, you know, tell us. I know I am certainly open to hear it, and I do attend those board meetings. I'm there every time, and we are always doing everything we can with you, the racing fan, in mind. So if we're missing something, help us out. Let us know. We want to hear from you. So it's quiet on the water right now at the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. You're looking there on the screen. And that is the U12, the Graham Trucking. And what I really like about that picture right there is the sling. You see the straps there on the left of the boat and the right of the boat. They are hooked up. So I take that as a good sign that they're about to lift the U12 off the trailer and maybe put it in the water. They could also be weighing the boat. I know after they do construction on the boat or a rebuild or a fix like they did, the boat always has to be inspected. There are 3 H1 inspectors down in the pit area, and one of the things they have to do after they inspect repairs to a boat is they have to weigh it. And the only way they can do that is weigh it on the sling, so maybe that is what they are doing, but I think that is a good indication that they are getting ready to roll. So let's hope. We'd love to see Jeff Bernard back out on the water. Checking the pit area. I'm not seeing anybody in the water. I'm not seeing any crane movement at this time. So I'll tell you what, we'll step away for just a moment. It's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce. We'll be bringing you all the action wire to wire this weekend. It's day 1 of 3 on the Ted Jones Racecourse on Lake Washington. We will be back momentarily. Stay with us. There's more action to come on the water. Back here on the start-finish line, this is Brad Luce at the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. It is day 1 of 3. We're just getting started here on the Ted Jones race course, but we've had an active test session so far today, and we've got more activity out on the water right now. Dave Villwock in the U-27. The Miss Apollo is away from the dock, and he is on the water. Dave, fresh off that Gold Cup victory in the Tri-Cities 1 week ago. Had a chance to talk to the young man this morning, and yes, I can get away with calling him young man because I are older than that young man. So Dave very slowly up. There you see him. Now we got him. Green again. I want to go back to that speed up there, 158.332 miles per hour. The stat man went back. He checked it too. He wasn't sure. He went back and retimed it and got the same speed, the 158. It's legit. It's also one other thing. It's really fast. Here comes Dave. He puts his foot down here about halfway between the exit pin and the start finish line. And again, this is the old boat. This is Sharky. This is the 2007 boat. So this one's been around a while, and I was talking about some of the stats on this one. This is now the second winningest hull in the history of H1 Unlimited Racing. They call the boat Sharky, and that's because of the color scheme and the paint scheme they had on the boat. It used to have some shark's teeth on it back in the day, and it also had some shark's eyes right behind the cowling, or right behind the cockpit there. So the boat's affectionately known as Sharky. It's also known as being really, really fast. The boat has now claimed 5 APBA Gold Cups and Sharky National High Points Championships. And right now, Dave's getting a beautiful boat ride on the water. It's very solid, it's stable, but it is up out of the water, and that's what you want. As he goes down to the lower end of the race course, we've got him on the clock this time, so we'll see what kind of a speed we get. Dave Villwock, originally from Bremerton, Washington, across Puget Sound from Seattle, now resides in LaGrange, Indiana. That is in northern Indiana. Dave looking real strong up at the top end. And as I said, he's fresh off that Gold Cup victory. It was his 11th Gold Cup. It was his 68th career win. Now we'll see what kind of a speed we get for Dave. We can get it up on the screen here. There we see it there, 153.793 miles per hour, 153.93. Not sure if the screen is going black on the viewer's end. It is here from time to time, so I lost it there for a minute. Maybe you are not the screen, but the first lap 149, that next one 153.7, so that was almost 154. That's as I said, the 2-lap qualifying average here a couple of years ago with Andrew Tate was 154, and Dave is knocking on the door of that lap right now. We'll see. He really was fully in and floating the boat when 154.619. 154.619. I think Dave's got to be really happy with that. Again, remember, this is not qualifying. This is only testing, but it doesn't make any difference. The boat's either fast or it's not. That one was really fast. J. Michael Kelly is going to come out on the race course next. And it looks like Corey Peabody is on the crane. He too will come out and pay a visit. So it looks like we're getting, everybody came out and ran this morning, and it looks now like our boats have had an opportunity to spend some time on the trailer, twist the wrenches a little bit, and now they're ready to come back out for a second run. 154.619 miles per hour. Now Dave's out there. See if Dave doesn't time himself. It looks like he put the hammer down there about the apex of the corner. And he will make a charge to the start-finish line as you look at J. Michael Kelly. And now you're looking inside the cockpit of Gunnar O'Farrell. Gunnar O'Farrell in the U-21, the Spirit of America. He's going to be coming out. Got the nice fancy new color scheme on the bar this week. And the goes down on Gunnar O'Farrell right there. So you're going to have 3 boats out on the water here momentarily as we go back to Dave Villwock. Up the back stretch. And when he gets to the top end of the race course, he'll look to his left as our camera is panning left, and he's going to see J. Michael Kelly come off the top end of the course. Mike floating the boat very nicely there across start-finish line. And Gunnar O'Farrell is away from the dock. You will see him join J. Michael Kelly and Dave Villwock, but as Gunnar's going to come out, and he is down at the south end of the race course, Dave Villwock is going to head back to the pit area. So you're looking at the U8, the Beacon Electric. Mike Kelly behind the wheel. 4-time winner here on Lake Washington. Oh, excuse me, 4-time winner in a row on Lake Washington, and that is a current streak. If he could pick up the win this week, it would be the first time anybody has won 5 straight races on Lake Washington. Mike has definitely had good luck on Lake Washington. He's a 6-time winner here. He won in 2014, 15, 19, 22, 23, and 24, with 23 being the APBA Gold Cup just a couple of years ago. Looking for Gunnar. Here he comes off the top end as Dave shuts it off short of the pit area down to our right. There you get a good look at Mike up at the top end. You might see a rooster tail go underneath. Missed it on the screen there just a bit, but Gunnar just came across start finish line. Watch Mike as he floats the boat as only he can. You follow Gunnar O'Farrell down to the bottom end of the race course. We'll keep an eye on the speed there for J. Michael Kelly if it pops up. See if he's, looks like his quick lap is still 1:47. He got a 1:47. That was 1:47.314. That was his quickest so far. Mike is still keeping a hammer in it a little bit as we follow Gunnar O'Farrell. I'll tell you what, the boat looks great, and honestly, I wasn't sure the color scheme was going to agree with yours truly or me personally, but I like it. As soon as I saw it in the pit area this morning, I thought it looked pretty good. It looks good on the water. It's Gunnar O'Farrell, U21 Spirit of America, young man out of Maple Valley, Washington. But they just ran out of time to get that boat wrapped for the Tri-Cities. So it was pretty much a white hydroplane a week ago, but now it's got the full colors on it here, the emblems for the branches of our military service, and this is a salute to our military people and personnel around the world, to whom we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude. Not to be forgotten, Gunnar O'Farrell. I mentioned earlier that he had just a terrific weekend last weekend in the Tri-Cities. The boat ran very well. He drove it very well. I thought he drove clearly his best race as an unlimited driver. He's going to come slow across start and finish line, and I think he will head it back to the pit area. And I think he's going to do the same behind him. We slip back there. Yeah, the quick lap for JMK there, the 1:47.314. Aside from Andrew's 1:58, I was pretty impressed with Dave Villwock's second run, because he laid down that 1:54.6 and he made it look very, very easy. And, you know, Dave only got in that boat for the very first time in Madison, Indiana. He'd never driven it before, and in only his second race in the boat, he claims an APBA Gold Cup, and now he comes out here and he's laying down laps of 154 miles an hour. So Super Dave is definitely in the mix here on Lake Washington, and I'm going to make a quick look here on Dave Villwock. Trying to remember off the top of my head how many times he has won on Lake Washington. Let's just say it's a big number. And it was pointed out to me by the stat man, who always comes up with this good stuff that we may not be aware of all the time. He pointed out that with Dave's win in the Tri-Cities, that was his 100th trip up the podium steps. So he's been on the podium 100 times. And then if you start thinking that 68 of those times he was at the top of the podium as the winner, and that, when I went to school, that's pretty quick 68% of the time. I don't care what stat the stat man can come up with. Dave Villwock knows how to drive a hydroplane, and he has been very, very successful. So successful, in fact, he is going to join the Motorsports Hall of Fame. The Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. That induction ceremony will take place next March down in Daytona Beach, Florida. And that's a big, big deal. We've had drivers in before, but the last time H1 Unlimited had ever inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame, it was in 2005, and it was a guy by the name of Danny Foster who drove in the late 1940s and the early 1950s. I was talking to Dave about it a little bit this morning, and he says what it means is, he said the big thing is, besides what it means for him personally, but what it means is people are paying attention to our sport. Our sport is relevant, and that's what he kept saying as Andrew Tate comes away from the dock. 291, the Goodman real estate, he will poke away. That's what you're looking at right there. Anyway, it is a very, very big deal that Dave Villwock, representing H1 Unlimited Hydroplane Racing, is going to be inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. It's a big deal, and it is going to be hugely supported by members of Hydrotown and H1 Unlimited. There are plans in place to make sure that is a heavily attended event by people within H1 Unlimited. That will be a big event. That takes place next March. But what takes place today is Andrew Tate, BWR Racing U91, and he rockets up the backstretch. Now, what really has me, I don't know if I'm worried or concerned or what I am, as Corey Peabody comes away from the dock in the U9. Most of the boats come out here, they run, and we saw them run this morning. They get the boats back to the dock, and then they have an opportunity to look at the data, look at the boxes, look at what information they gather. They make adjustments to the boat, and then they typically go out and go faster. It's been a long, long time since I stood on the official tower here in Seattle and said, have we got a boat literally out here sniffing 160 on a 2-mile race course? Wow. Well, there's two of your quicker boats. You're going to see Andrew blow by Corey here in a moment. Right about now, he should jump in the screen, and there he goes. Andrew Tate goes by Corey Peabody. Look for those two to hook up this weekend. And if they do, it is a dandy show. You don't want to miss it. Here comes Andrew, and this guy is fixated on having a good run this weekend. We'll see what kind of a speed he lays down. Showed us a 158 earlier. See what he did on that one. Just waiting to see what might pop up here from the stat man and his graphics. Sounds like he turned it at 154. 154. So not as fast as I was kind of wondering, but and now Corey's got his foot in it too. So we've got the clock on both boats as we're coming inside an hour left in this test session. Andrew comes across start finish line, floating a boat again. Andrew is definitely somebody who wants to do well this weekend. I think he was, I don't know that if he was embarrassed, I just know he felt bad. I think he felt he had, I think he believed he could make an argument that maybe he had the fastest boat on the Columbia River. Corey Peabody's going to argue with him about that as we look for Corey. See if we get a speed on him. He's got to have a fairly quick one there. But an argument could be made that the 91 was maybe the quickest boat in the Columbia. I'm sure Corey would say, I beat you twice. I think I was. Argue either way. They were both extremely fast, and Andrew's really flying the 91. You saw him just pick up the front of the boat and just hang it there. You're not going to see the speeds here that you saw a week ago in the Tri-Cities, but that doesn't mean they're not going to get the boats up out of the water here and fly them any lower. They're going to get them up, get them out of the water, and these two guys are some of the very best. Andrew Tate and Corey Peabody. Looking here to see if we got a, just out of curiosity, we got a 155 there on Corey Peabody. Going to be happy with that speed. I'd be curious to hear what Andrew's second lap was. I don't know if he was pushing it all that hard, but he wasn't holding back. But now our second fastest lap out here so far on the day is 155. And again, is Andrew once again really flies the 91 across. There you go, getting a great look at Andrew Tate. How about a second lap at 155.098? Boy, right there with Corey Peabody's 155.048. So not quite the 158 we saw earlier. But these guys are really, really close. Mix in Dave's 154. You've got three of them there that I like to say you can throw a blanket over them. Corey Peabody's going to return to the pit area. Andrew still remains out on the water, comes off the top end. He's already put 4 laps in a book. Here he comes down to complete lap number 5. That was a good shot there. You saw him actually dance the front canard wing there just a little bit. The front end started to come up. You saw him just tip that canard wing a little bit to bring that nose back down gently. 147 on the last lap. It's important that when you do get the boat out of attitude and you want to bring it back down, you don't want to bring the boat back down and slam the lap, because then the boat will react to that and you might launch it right back off. So obviously one of the best in the business. Up the backstretch. And now we'll see if Andrew doesn't do a timing run here. Right when he got to the entrance pin, you saw the rooster tail start to go up, and now he's going to bring a lot of boat speed to the line. Now, where does he want to? Oh my goodness, Andrew's going to come off to about lane number 4 and come down here and watch him fly the boat. He's going into a little bit of a breeze there. Going to come off. Andrew will lay him across the line, and then he'll probably pull his foot. He does a little bit. Fast lap between the two boats on this session. Still that 91 lap at 155.098, and Corey Peabody's 155.048. That's 5/100ths of a mile per hour for those of you playing along at home. Got to give a shout out here to our volunteers up on the start finish line tower. I was sitting in my corner talking about the first part of our test session, and suddenly the smell of popcorn began wafting. And I tell you, everybody that is on this tower from the top level to the bottom level has come up and found the young lady who is making the popcorn here on the start finish line. And anyway, there's one thing you learn as a broadcaster very quick, and you only have to make the mistake once. One of the things that you do not do is you don't eat popcorn. So to have them over here making fresh, warm popcorn, and I'm making eye contact with the young lady right now. But this whole place smells of popcorn right now, and it's pretty good. Tell you what, I am going to step away for just a moment, and I'm going to come right back. And when I do, I'm going to have a special guest that we're going to talk to here for just a moment. So bear with me, and I will be back with a guest. Back on the start-finish line here on Lake Washington in Seattle, Washington. It's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce, and I'm joined on set here by a face that probably doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, Mr. John Walters with H1 Unlimited. John, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you, Brad. It's always a big pleasure to be here and be part of this amazing event that happens here on Lake Washington. You know, from the time I was a little boy till the time that I'm an old man here, it's been a lot of fun and a lot of stories and a lot of cool things have happened.
Well, we had some incredible racing last week in the Tri-Cities that I want to talk to you a little bit about, and it appears as though it's kind of carried over here. If testing this morning is any indication, Andrew laid down a lap at 1:58, and he sent me and the Nick Kish stat man over there into the record book. We had to do some looking around. We found some 1:54s that had been run in the past, but that 1:58's a quick one.
That's a really fast lap, and Andrew's got the boat working really well right now. The temperature was good, the water was good. It was the perfect storm, if you will, for laying down a fast lap. And honestly, they didn't have the best of weekends last week, and I think that they're licking their wounds a little bit here and want to come out really strong and run really well. So they've got a great group of people over there. Mike Hansen and that whole group do an amazing job. The boat is prepared really well. There's no question Andrew drives the heck out of it.
He does indeed. And you mentioned last weekend, and now we're on this weekend, and I was making a comment that, you know, we only drove 3.5 hours to get over here, but this is a whole different climate, and it really affects those engines differently, and it affects how they react. Talk a little bit about that. What does the cooler temperature do? What does the change in humidity do to the turbine motor?
Makes horsepower. Everybody's liking that. They like the cool temperatures. The engines like the cool temperatures. The air is a little more dense. The boat runs a little bit freer, so it pushes a little bit easier. In Tri-Cities there, it was very hot, as it normally is in the desert there, and actually wasn't as hot as it can be, and it has been in the past. But you know, with all the boats being turbine these days, and they're all affected equally, but Lycoming calls what they call and rate the engines at a standard day of 59 degrees. Every degree over 59 degrees, they lose about 10 horsepower. So by the time they get up there in the 100 degree Fahrenheit range, they're all giving up 350, 400 horsepower or so, but it's the same for everyone. So that's when it really matters that the driver does a good job of putting the boat in a lane to where the boat doesn't have to, or the engine doesn't have to work excessively hard, or the shortest way around the race course, or the crew works to clean the boat up aerodynamically and hydrodynamically so it pushes a little easier. So lots of tricks. Lots of tricks,
and one of our boats that had a very good weekend last weekend is on the water. Jamie Nielsen and the Miss FLAV-R-PAC, the U11, is running up the backstretch. They ended up on the second level of the podium last weekend. A good run for Scott and Shannon Rainey.
They did. They had a really good weekend, and I was proud to see how well the boat was running. Jamie always does a really good job of driving the boat, and he always gets a few extra miles per hour out of the thing by making good starts and making the boat work in a good lane there. So fun to watch. These guys are all really good friends. I mean, everybody in the pits I like to think are good friends, but these guys are special because I've worked with so many of them.
Jamie comes across the line there. He's on the clock. We're not getting our speed up here, but I think our fans may be getting it on the monitors there, so they may see it where we don't. But Jamie out. This is his second time. John, you had a great driving career. I've always said John Walters has done almost everything within H1 Unlimited. You have been a crew member, you've been a team manager, you've been a crew chief, you've been a driver, you've been an announcer, you've been a referee, you've been a color commentator, you've worked with me. What was the best part of the whole thing? What did you enjoy doing the very most?
Boy.
Was it your driving career? Because I know you always wanted to drive.
I did. From the time I was 9 years old and saw my first race, I knew that I wanted to drive unlimited hydroplanes when I got the opportunity. And I didn't get to win as many races as I wanted to. My career was, started with a crash, ended with a crash, but there was a lot of fun in between, here and there. I would say, being part of that group, being part of that team, just being part of the family of APBA and boat racing in general. It opened so many doors for my family and myself to be able to go places and do things that would have never happened probably before or without that. So it was really special. Yeah, that was a dream come true and a fulfillment. But honestly, I think a lot of the things that make me really happy about the sport today too is so many of the innovations, so many of the safety things that we take for granted right now. I got to be part of that. Part of it, being a crash test dummy for a couple of years, and we took a look at some things. But I was able to put together a committee that started taking a look at the post-accident things and found out what the damage was and what could we do to prevent people from getting hurt. We knew a long time ago, Jim Lucero and myself had many conversations about there's no way we'll ever be able to build a boat that doesn't crash. The best we can do is make it as survivable as possible for the boys and girls that are driving these things. And so I don't know. I mean, at the time, driving the boat was the most special thing in the world, but these days I get a great amount of pleasure out of knowing that these things are safe. You see guys get upside down and girls get upside down on these things now and come back an hour later after they've had a doctor take a look at them with wet pants and a bruised ego, and they're ready to go do it again. So that's a real special thing too. And just hanging out with friends, just being part of it is the most important thing for me.
And I think one of the important points that we definitely want to say with regards to your driving career, okay, started with a crash, it ended with a crash, but somewhere in the middle there you went up to New York and you claimed the first ever victory with a turbine-powered hydroplane. Nobody can ever take that one away from you.
That one is really special, and we set a lot of records. We did a lot of things. We did a lot of innovations and things that were the first time somebody had done those in the sport. A lot of that I've helped people to beat those. There's so many young guys out there now that are winning races and setting records and eclipsing the marks that were world records for the sport when I was involved. That's the one thing that they can never take away from me. And there were some course records at some places that we don't race right now. Those are probably safe for a little while too. But I hope
we can go back.
Yeah, I hope that we go back there and give people the opportunity to beat those records. Will always be the winner, the first winner in a turbine-powered hydroplane, and I hope that nobody ever beats my altitude record. So I'm happy about that one too.
And nobody who saw that particular incident will ever forget your roundabout. And we're being told that the 21 had a fuel flow violation on their last run. That was Gunnar O'Farrell when he was out on the water. Jamie Nielsen is still out on the water. It looks like he's turning some laps in the mid-140s out there. Let's go back to what you do now. You've driven, you've been involved with race teams, et cetera, and now you're an inspector. What does an H1 inspector do? Well,
we have a rule book. I've been be able to be involved with the competition rules and competition committee, to where a lot of those rules I've had some input on being able to install those in the rule book and implement those. It's nice to have the experience as a crew chief and a driver and from all aspects of the sport to know how those rules affect you and what you can do with them. The inspectors go through every year. There's an annual inspection where every nut and bolt gets looked at. The lifting slings and all the lifting devices and the steering cables and all those things require pull tests and make sure that all that sort of thing is in good working order and we don't have any failures with that. The driver safety equipment, the Hans devices, helmet, flotation, they have to wear a fire-resistant suit and gloves and all that. And we take a look at all that sort of thing and make sure that all that stuff is good. We even get involved with the FCC licensing of the radios and the communications between the spotters and the drivers. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see and don't understand. The U-12 guys last week had a propeller come unstuck and lost a blade on that, which completely destroyed the back end of the boat from the transom to the a couple of frames forward, ripped the strut off the boat. And so there's a re-inspection process that goes through. And I went down this morning, took a look at it when the guys got the boat back in the pits, and what an excellent job they did getting everything done in time. All brand new honeycomb panel, replacing the bottom, and all new stiffeners and brackets and everything inside there, all the glues, all the nuts and bolts and fasteners, the inserts and everything it takes to put all that back together, and even painted it. So great job on their part, and all that stuff needs to be looked at. And so I have a great amount of experience with that, and I know what to look for and to help with that. In the same way with the technical side of the engine. We're restricted on the amount of fuel that we can run at 4.2 gallons per minute. There's a flow meter in the boat that measures that, and then that data is all recorded. We're allowed to run 10% over the maximum RPM limited by Lycoming, the engine manufacturers, at 110%, which puts us up around 16,000 RPM. There's a device in there that measures the RPM off the output shaft of the engine, and so they have to be within the limits on that sort of thing. We've got a tech truck down there where Seth Marshall takes a look at all that information, and then we heard just a little while ago that the 21 guys went over on the fuel, and so they had no time for that. So so we look at all those things. Safety is always number one. We're always looking to make the boats as safe as possible, run as quick as they can, as much as they can, in as safe a fashion as they can. And that's number one, and then the technical side of it comes after that.
And you're talking about the U-12 and the issue they ran into last weekend in Tri-Cities. I mentioned this morning we had very good news, because when I walked into the pit area this morning, there was the U-12. They pulled in early this morning, and what appears to be a very successful run on the water just now. That is the U-12, Jeff Bernard, the Graham Trucking. Good to have that boat back out on the water. When you inspect it after the damage that they had last week and the repair, do you have to reweigh the boat again?
Yeah, we don't have to reweigh it. We will at some point in time here take a look at it and weigh it again. We'll weigh it, throughout the weekend, and at the end of the day, or on Sunday, most times we'll end up, weighing the first couple of boats that are there too. And the team is going to want to know too if they, added some weight, or maybe they made some repairs. This isn't the first time that boat's lost a propeller and had some damage back there. And sometimes, they get fixed in with whatever you have on hand, and it's a safe repair, but it's not the most streamlined repair, or it's not necessarily the lightest way to do it. So sometimes over the winter they'll go back when they have more time and fix it. But like I say, this was a very professional job. It was put back together like the boat was brand new. My guess, it's probably lighter than before the accident.
Well, and I know they did a lot of repairs to that boat during the off season, and that was kind of the mantra when I went down and spoke to them. It was, they had done little fixes here and there along the way and put doublers in. I had no idea what a doubler was, and Jeff showed me in there what it was, and they were getting rid of all that, but the doublers were adding weight, and it had been a long time since they had really gotten into the boat and completely repaired some of this stuff. And so he really felt like the boat was getting much more back to where it was a number of years ago. It had just had so many little dings and bangs along the way. To your point, it gets fixed kind of quick in the pit area so you can put it back in the water, and it's maybe not the best way to do it. This boat's really in good shape, and I'm glad to hear you talk about the repairs like that, but happier yet to see the boat out on the water and running that well. That's a good race team, and we all know that's a good race boat.
They are. They definitely are a good group of guys there. And, most of these guys today have, a full-time job or a day job, if you will. And so they gave up medical leave time and vacation time and that sort of thing to, come put this race boat back together. And Rob Graham has, put together a great group of guys down there. Tom Anderson does a great job, very sharp, very clever, been with a lot of different race teams and done a lot of different things. And they work well together, did an outstanding job here to, get the boat back on the race course, and proud of them and glad to see them out here.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about your inspector duties, because we've got boats on the water here. It's day 1 of 3 at the Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair, and John Walters is up here on start finish line. You got a couple of guys down there in the pit area you work very closely with, Brian Vincent, Steve Compton. I'm assuming they're doing a really good job, because you're up here having popcorn up on the start finish line with me.
I'm assuming they're doing a good job as well, and I think that I know that they are. These guys are both very involved in the sport, and racers themselves, own boats, and they know what it takes to put one of these things on the race course and maintain it and keep it going. They're very thorough. They're having a lot of fun, going to boat races with their friends. And it's a really good group of guys that we've got down there. We all communicate to know what each other's doing. We're all on the same page. We'll get together and chat a little bit in the mornings and have a bit of a briefing and debriefing at the end of the day. And like I said, communications is very important. We spend a lot of time, talking with each other and make sure that everybody knows what's going on. So, great group of guys, proud to be part of it.
John Walters still having fun with H1?
I am having fun with H1. I think that there's so many other things that get involved in life that make it complicated, make it sad, or make it happy, or somewhere in between. I just am happy at a boat race. It's the best place for me to be.
Well, and I've made the comment many times, and I know you feel the same way. Sometimes these boat races, they kind of just seems like big family reunions, because it really is a family.
They are a big family. It's a great family reunion, fun to get back together. And my world outside of boat racing just stops when I'm at a boat race. I don't know what else is going on in the world. I've got some very close neighbors, close relationship-wise. They're not all that close in distance, but called me last night. We had some very severe thunderstorms in the area that I live over in eastern Washington, in the mountains there, and several lightning strikes and a bunch of fires and over an inch of rain in less than an hour, and had a little bit of flooding here and there, but the rain was all good. We did have some lightning strikes that caused some fires down in the valley, but things are good where I am right now, so it's just happy to be here, happy to be with the whole thing. And I've said this before, in my early same uniform, they're the enemy. And so I missed out on a lot of things in my early racing days because I was trying to live that philosophy. Later on, I realized that the boats are cool, the propellers are neat, and the engines are fascinating and all that sort of thing, but it's the people that really make this sport and make the life and make the world is, and strides in doing such. We've got some great owners down there that are spending time and money and energy to improve the sport. We've got guys like you in the group up here that are talking about it and promoting it everywhere we go, whether it's on the air or in a party someplace. So thank you everyone for all you do. I'm just proud to be part of this great sport.
He is John Walters, and I appreciate you taking the time to come up here. I think you said it perfect right there at the very end when you were talking about, at the end of the day, whether it's hydroplane racing or we're talking about a job or we're talking about your neighbors, it all comes down to the people.
Absolutely.
And when they write the final epitaph for all of us, it's going to be about the friends you had, the people you had, the fun you had, and the good times you shared with others. I think he said it perfect. He is John Walters with H1 Unlimited. He is our chief inspector. You want to put a boat in the water and come out and race, at some point you're going to run across this guy. He's going to come knocking on your shop door. We're going to step away because I don't think we've got any boats in the water right at this moment, and we've got a big event coming up here very shortly. I'm going to go check and see just how close we are to that. Brad Luce, John Walters, it's the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. We'll be back shortly. Back on the start-finish line tower here on Lake Washington at the Seattle Seafair event. It is the Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair, boat racing on Lake Washington. We've had activity on the water most all of the morning, and we're just about done with our test session here this morning, but all of a sudden we've had a flurry of activity as 3 boats have come out very quickly. J. Michael Kelly was the first one out, and he came out and put a few laps in the books, and now we've got the U-27 that you're looking at right there, the Miss Apollo, with Dave Villwock, fresh off that Gold Cup victory a week ago in the Tri-Cities. And at the top end of the race course, we've got the U-21, the Spirit of America, with Gunnar O'Farrell. So, as is typically the case and has historically been over the years, you get to the very end of the qualifying session or the testing session, all of a sudden everybody wants to go. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, but I think we're going to come to an end here very quickly. In fact, our ticker up there in the upper left corner says we've got 15 seconds left in this session, and I can tell you what we're aiming to do is next up on our schedule is Grand Prix hydroplane qualifying. And as I say that now, here comes Corey Peabody away from the dock. So now we've got yet another H1 boat coming out. So clearly they're going to extend this for just a moment or two. We've got Grand Prix team members and radio members up here on start finish. I look down toward the pit area. We've got Grand Prix boats in the water. So very shortly we are going to go Grand Prix qualifying. That should take us to the top of the hour. Following that, we will go with our Jimmie Johnson feature, which will be a big one and a good one. You don't want to miss it. And I am being told right now there is a black flag being waved on the race course, and that is because our boats are out of time. We've got to stay on a tight schedule here. If you've ever come to Seafair, you know about the air show and the air box, and those times are in granite. You cannot move from that part of the schedule. You can be flexible in other things, but not when it comes to the air box and the air show. So we're going to try and keep our boats on schedule so we can get our qualifying done and get our Jimmie Johnson feature in. And Corey Peabody got the message. He came out of the pit area, went up the backstretch, and then cruised around the race course, got to the start-finish line, was informed of the black flag, and he has now shut the U9 down, although he has gone way past his pit area. Watch for him to come all the way back. He's turned down there. On the screen there you can see him, but you can't really see where he is relative to his pit area. But let's just say I have no idea how far it is because I'm a long way from him as well. But he's turned around now and he's got to come back up. And the reason he did that was because he had Dave Villwock and Gunnar O'Farrell that were going to be in front of him, and they were blocking his way back to the dock. So Corey's clear now, and if he wanted to see how slow he could run the boat on this test session, he's able to do that right now. But next up on our schedule, we're going to go Grand Prix qualifying. We've got our 7 Grand Prix boats in the pit area. There, you're getting a good look at Corey as he's just headed north. There's the entrance pin and the exit pin of the lower corner, and he's got to head up. There you can kind of see where he is. He's behind our pylon there now. With the pylon gone, you can see where Corey is, and he's got to come back up and go all the way around that big white yacht that's parked out at the end of the dock there. So he's got to keep coming toward us. He's driving up towards start finish now, and then he'll make a right-hand turn, which he's initiating now. This is probably the first time we've had a limited hydroplane traveling at maybe 20 miles an hour, and we're doing a little play-by-play on how he gets back to the dock. Riveting broadcast here as we cover Corey Peabody's trip back to the pit area. And I think he just pulled the pin, and that will do it. He will drift in. You can see where Dave Villwock is there. See the Apollo. Those boats are fairly close together. One was dictating where the other one would go. Grand Prix qualifying. Now these guys will come out. They only get one shot at this. They will come out and they will run 2 laps. They will come out of the pit area. They will come around the race course to the start-finish line, and at that point, they will be on the clock. They get to turn 2 laps, the fastest of which will be their qualifying speed. Now, typically what happens, because these are automotive engines and they really want to make sure they get the oil pressure up, they get the oil heated up, typically what you will see is the first lap is really nothing more than a warm-up lap. And then they will push it hard for lap number 2. Now, our first boat, I believe, that's going to come out is the Caveman Kitchen. That's the GP12. And Josh Harnack. And that is the first boat that's going to come away from the dock. Boat is owned by Bob Shellhays. Bob's been involved with racing for many, many years. He continues to support Seafair and Grand Prix and racing in Region 10, and we thank Bob for all of his support. And it's just good to have Grand Prix hydroplanes back on Lake Washington. They have been absent from this event for a number of years, and we certainly welcome back our Grand Prix fleet. We have 7 boats in the pit area. And we'll start with GP12, the Caveman Kitchen, boat driven by Josh Harnack and owned by Bob Shellhays. So up the backstretch he goes. This will be a qualifying run. He's not yet on the clock. He just came out of the pit area. He will get put on the clock as soon as he comes down and crosses start finish. But I don't think he's going to go very fast. I think the whole idea here is to warm up the motor, warm up the oil, get the oil pressure up. So he's on the clock now, but this is typically what we see, a slow lap. And as he starts to maybe enter the top end of the race course on the next time around, you'll see the rooster tail come up, you'll hear the noise and the roar, and Josh will put his foot in it and turn a quick lap. It's Grand Prix qualifying, so we're taking a step toward getting a little bit more serious. We don't go H1 Unlimited qualifying until tomorrow morning, but right now it's our Grand Prix hydroplanes. Now Josh's boat's really waving at him as he goes up the backstretch, and quite honestly, he doesn't have his foot in it that deep yet. Now he starts to, and he's going way wide, and that's by design, so he can bring a lot of speed down to the start-finish line. This will be the completion of his first lap, but it'll be the start of his first fast one. Josh Harnack on the clock for lap number 2 of qualifying for Caveman Kitchen, GP12, Josh Harnack. Down to the bottom end of the race course. Now I want to watch his run up the backstretch, because boat was waving at him quite a bit, meaning the front end was coming up and he was tapping the sponsons back and forth. That could very well have been just because he wasn't driving all that hard. He's getting a better boat ride on it right now. This is where it started to walk on him a little bit, but he's all right up there. Now he'll settle it down and get into the top end. Boat took a bit of a dive there on the left sponson. That woke him up in the cockpit, I am sure. Josh Harnack, Caveman Kitchen, GP12, and he is across. There is your first qualifier for our Grand Prix hydroplane class. We are working on a bit of a communication system here where I can get you the speed. I think we're just going to get a speed on the second lap. And I'm told 1 moment. I'm beginning to learn that a key accoutrement to our communication system here would be a pen that had ink in it. Apparently, pen was a little bit dry, and they can communicate the speed to me, but I can't really read it. So we're working on it here. Here comes maybe something. The second lap turned at 120, 120.530, 120.530. So bear with me. 2:05.30 for the GP12. So a good run for Josh Harnack. And he brings the boat by very, very close. Got close enough there you could almost read above the sponson on the deck the Caveman Kitchen, which was a new sponsor that they announced just this past week. So Josh will head it back into the pit area. There's a great look there of that new paint scheme and color scheme. And how about that for those of you nostalgic hydroplane fans there? You saw in the foreground as Josh brought the 12 back to the dock, you saw the Squire Shop and the famous Griffin Budweiser sitting there, and looked like they were putting a sling on the Griffin Bud. So who comes out now? And this will be the GP 135 Cool Cat Motorsports. This will be John Shaw. I mentioned this is a pretty quick hydroplane that we saw last year back east, and then we saw it this year again back east, and they decided to come out west. They had difficulty in the Tri-Cities, especially on Saturday. They had mechanical issues that just put them behind the 8-ball the entire day. They worked deep into the night Saturday night, and when they came out Sunday morning, the boat was just markedly better. And this is a quick hydroplane, and John Shaw is a very accomplished shoe. So if the boat's ready to go, I can assure you John will be. And I think we'll see the same procedure here we saw from Josh Harnack. It will be a slow run around the race course, and then we'll put him on the clock, and it will be another fairly slow run around the course as they just make sure everything is heated up, the oil's heated up, the oil pressure is up where they want it, and if all systems are go, then John will drop his foot into it. You see there in the background on the screen there, you see the log boom beginning to fill in. Every time I look at the log boom, there's a few more boats out there, and it's growing. And it will continue to grow, and then some of it will disperse this evening, and then they will show up again tomorrow, and then Sunday, the big day, when it will be jammed. John Shaw out of Centerville, Maryland. Boat owned by Ed Thompson, also out of Maryland, out of Street, Maryland. So he is actually on the clock right now. This is a qualifying lap. And when he gets up toward the top end, listen for the motor, watch the rooster tail. He will start to increase the speed as he will come down and start his second lap, which will be the one he really wants to push for. Assuming everything is right in the cockpit with the gauges, John will give him a quick glance, communicate with his radio man. And right about there, you could hear the motor start to pick up. Here comes John Shaw, GP 135, Cool Cat Motorsports. He'll come down much quicker this time. You see him standing on that canard wing, keeping that front end down. Had a bit of an issue there settling the boat down for the corner. When the sponsons are walking like that, that's not when you want to start turning the boat left, but he was at the entrance pin, so he may have gone into that corner a little bit deeper than he wanted. I thought for a moment there he maybe lost some power up the backstretch, but John's still on it. See if he can get clean through this corner. This is a good corner for John. He's going to be happy with this, and he will come down and complete his second lap, and it will be the quicker of the two, obviously by design. John Shaw, Cool Cat Motorsports. We will have a speed momentarily. I think we have taken steps to improve our communication here on start-finish line. As if the stat man doesn't have enough to do. So his second lap, GP 135, 117.763, 117.763. That puts him a little bit behind Josh Harnack and the Caveman Kitchen GP 12. But a good run nonetheless for the Cool Cat Motorsports. I mentioned earlier that in this form of racing, it's different from H1 Unlimited racing because these guys, they do not fight for lanes like H1 Unlimited does. They race in assigned lanes, and the lanes they are assigned in their first heat is based on their qualifying speed. So if you're the top qualifier, you are going to get an inside lane. Eventually, they're going to invert the field, and the fastest boats are going to have to go on the outside. But for the first round, if you are the top qualifiers, you're going to be on an inside lane. Then they invert, but the whole idea is to win your way into an inside lane for the final heat coming up Sunday afternoon. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Next up on the race course is going to be Happy-Go-Lucky Racing. Greg Hopp out of Snohomish, Washington. He will come away in the Old Trapper beef jerky. Jerry Hopp, Papa Hopp, will be on the radio talking to his son. And if you've been watching boat racing around the Pacific Northwest and even across the country, having the two Hopps, Greg and Jerry, involved, that's just kind of a tradition. There you're getting a good look at that low-profile Jamie Auld hull from back in the day. And the Hopper, he was victorious in the Tri-Cities. He was the beneficiary of some bad luck by a couple of other boats out in front of him, but Greg has had that happen to him on a number of occasions. He will take it, and that's part of boat racing. So a good weekend for Greg and Jerry in the Tri-Cities. And again, we know the procedure now. We're catching on a slow warm-up lap here, then they'll put them on the clock, and it will be another slow lap, and then Greg will put the foot in it, and we'll see what he can do. He is our third boat to come out in Grand Prix America, who makes a return to Lake Washington at Seafair, and we are very glad to have the Grand Prix class back. And this is a big, wide race course for our Grand Prix. They run the same width that the H1 Unlimiteds do. They are not as long, as you see him sawing off the course up there at the top end. They will come down and utilize the H1 Unlimited south turn, or the lower corner, but then their course is shorter. So with that, we put Greg Hopp on the clock for his first of 2 times around on the Ted Jones race course. So, as we have before, we'll listen for Greg, and we're going to start hearing it now a little bit. Greg starts to put the foot down. This is still his first lap. This is the slower of the two, or at least that's the way he's got it drawn up. He's going to bring boat speed off the top end. He'll come down, complete lap 1, start lap 2. Lap 2 will be the quick one. It's Old Trapper Beef Jerky, GP 15, Greg Hopp out of Snohomish. He completes 1, and now he's on the second lap. Good boat ride for Greg as he gets down to the bottom end of the course. Good line through the corner. This is where this boat has the deficiency against some of the newer hulls. It's just not as wide, and therefore they don't pack as much air underneath that hull. But boy, you get it in a straight line, and this one really flies. Whoa, and he took a big hop there and really lifted the front end. But he settled it right back down. Top qualifier so far is the GP12, Josh Harnack, just north of 120 miles an hour. Can Greg top it? Here he comes. Old Trapper Beef Jerky, GP15, Greg Hopper, and he's across. I mentioned this is an old hull. I believe it dates back as far as 1992. But literally, they rebuild this boat, the Hops do, during the off season pretty much every year. And so you can make an argument this is pretty much a brand new boat each year, but it's just the same old lines, and it's the same old speed. It is a fast one. And how about that GP15? Oh boy, we're close. New top qualifier here, 120.555. Josh Harnack was 120.530. So by the skin of his teeth, Greg Hopp moves to the top qualifying spot, 120.555. Thank you. That was to the able assistants here that are helping me on the tower. As you look at Greg Hopp. And coming away from the pit area now, here comes the freak, Kevin Ekert. The GP10 away from the dock. I had the good fortune of a couple of conversations with crew members on the GP10 over the past week, and they were giving me some insight to that which they have done to this boat over the years and what they hope to do this weekend here. They hope to put on a really good show. This boat has got an incredible amount of speed in it. It has always been fast. If you remember a boat from years ago called the Charger, well, this is the old Charger, but the Charger moniker is gone. It is now the Freak. GP10, Brian Richards owns it out of Snohomish, Washington, driven by Kevin Ekert. Kevin calls Edmonds home, just north of Seattle. Kevin will come down, and like we've seen before, he'll start his first lap of his qualifying attempt here. And as we've seen, this will be the slow lap. Needless to say, a very distinctive profile on this particular hydroplane. They wanted it to look different. They wanted it to be distinctive. Talking with Jimmy James Cussworth over the week, and he was telling me some of the thoughts that went into it, and talking with Teresa about what they wanted to do with the colors and what they wanted to do with how the boat was painted up and how it would look on the water. This was the result, and it's fast. It is GP10, the Freak. They're on the clock for lap 2. Kevin Ekert looking for a top qualifying speed right now, 120.555 miles per hour, and that belonging to Greg Hopp. We'll see if Kevin Ekert can't knock his buddy down. GP10, the Freak, is off the corner and looking really strong, getting a good boat ride. We saw some of the other boats, the Cool Cat Motorsports and Greg Hopp, both get a little bit out of shape right about there on the race course during their qualifying run. It appeared as though Kevin got through that a little cleaner. Comes off the top end. Boat's running quick. Got a little miss right there. We'll see if the 10, he's across right now. The Freak looking to top a 120.555 miles per hour to move into a top qualifying spot. We will have it here momentarily. Whoa, and we have a new top qualifier. It was indeed the Freak. He's freaking him out right now. Fastest lap, that second one, 123.533 miles per hour. 123.523 topping Greg Hopp's 120.555. So 123.533 miles per hour. Thank you, young lady. 123 miles per hour. I'm going to think Kevin's going to be pretty happy with that. Now it's time for the GP17. Another boat owned by Brian Richards out of Snohomish. This is the GP17. It is the Miss Renee, and it is driven by Austin Eckert. We make a comment. I talk with John Walters. We talk about the people of boat racing. We talk about the people that you meet, and you talk about the friends we've made over the years in this wonderful family that is H1 Unlimited, and beyond that, just hydroplane racing. And I thought John said it pretty good when he said, you know, I like everybody. I never met somebody I didn't like in boat racing. I like some people more than others. I think we can all appreciate that statement. However, I look at this guy, Austin Eckert, behind the wheel of the GP17. This kid is something special. And I met him many, many years ago when I was calling events in Region 10 here in the Northwest. And I met this young man, and he's got a heart of gold. He's got a great sense of humor, and just one of the truly great names in boat racing at any level. Austin Eckert. He's also got, it doesn't hurt, he's got the best nickname of all, the awesome Austin Eckert. But he is driving the GP17, and while that may not look like it as he goes across start finish line, he's on the clock. He is on the clock right now. And this will be his slow lap. And he's going very wide around the race course down there. I don't think when he charges into that corner hard that he will take that kind of a line, because that'll cost him a lot of time. Now see if he doesn't start just picking up the motor a little bit. Not yet. I thought maybe we'd see him start to get on it a little bit, but he's the one sitting behind the wheel looking at the gauges and checking everything out. He's got 3 radio guys standing just to my right down from me that are talking to him. Now you hear the motor start to pick up, and Austin Eckert starts to put the foot down a little bit. Comes off the top end of the race course. See if he doesn't tighten it up down at the bottom this time. It's GP17, Miss Renee, Austin Eckert. Got him on the clock starting lap number 2. First one is in the books. Austin would like to have the start back that he had in the final heat in the Tri-Cities. Much tighter through the line of the corner down there. Much better. And we figured he'd tighten it up. That first lap he really didn't care about, but now he does, and he's got his foot in it. And this one's a quick one. This is a very fast hydroplane. They've had their difficulty over the years, and last couple especially, but when it's right, this one's a rocket. And Kevin's got it running, Austin has got it running hard up at the top end. Great line through the corner. Stand tight on the buoy row, and here he comes. Good looking boat. Miss Renee, GP17, Austin Eckert. And he is across. We will have a speed for him there as he went underneath the drone. And our crackerjack crew here comes over with the, we don't have a new top qualifier, but we're very close. Our GP10, the Freak with Kevin Eckert, still sits on top at 123.533. But Austin Eckert just clocked in with a 121.335. 121.335. And Jeff Bernard comes away from the dock. I would expect, you're going to think and expect that he may be the top qualifier here and knock down this 123, but he's going to have to do it with a hot lap. Thank you very much. Jeff Bernard out on the race course. GP79, Ty Ginger. Gotta like a boat running with the moniker Ty Ginger. Boat owned by Mike Grinnell out of Webster, Massachusetts, driven by Jeff Bernard out of the Northwest here. He resides with wife Christabel and family down in Covington, Washington, just south of the greater Seattle area. Top end of the course, the GP79. Somewhere on the side of that boat it will say the bad influence, but it'll also say Ty Ginger. Bernard, I've already mentioned it a couple of times. I don't know that anybody had a tougher weekend in the Tri-Cities than Jeff Bernard. They broke the Unlimited, the U-12, when they threw a blade off the propeller, and then he did not, or was not able to finish the final heat in the Tri-Cities in his Grand Prix boat. Looking to bounce back with a big weekend here on home waters in front of a lot of family and friends. Jeff Bernard. Going to be the busiest guy in the pit area, that's for sure, driving 2 classes of boats. All right, so here goes Jeff. He's been on the clock now during his first lap here. And there you heard it and saw it. All of a sudden, he mashed the gas. He will come down tight on the buoy road. Jeff Bernard, GP79, Ty Ginger. He will come down, look at the top of 123. That's the top qualifying spot so far. And Bernard is off to a good start on this, his second of 2 times around the race course, and the one he hopes to be the quick one. Good line through the corner. Bernard exits right now. You see the exit pin go by, and down the backstretch he goes now. Watch what kind of a boat ride he gets. He wants to get the boat up out of the water, but he doesn't want it too high. Boat looking good. Jeff's really moving. This will be a quick one. If he can hold this together, he is at the top end of the race course at the apex, and now he's got to square it up, bring it down, and just like that, Jeff Bernard comes off the top end of the race course, and he'll put a fast one in the books. I would from here, this is the quickest lap we've seen. We'll find out if my prognosis is any good. He's looking to top a 123. Looking for a 123 or better. Check real quick, and yeah, that was a quick one indeed. GP10 was top qualifier, 123.5, but Jeff Bernard just clicked that one in at 131.752 miles per hour. 131.752. He is our top qualifier for our Grand Prix heat. Understand what you're looking at there. Now we've got a visual on the screen. That is Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion, is sitting behind the wheel of the Blue Blaster, the famous boat driven by Bill Munsey. And there's quite a story that goes into this whole event. But what is going to happen here is Jimmie Johnson, a 7-time NASCAR Series champion, is going to drive Bill Munsey's Blue Blaster unlimited hydroplane around the Ted Jones race course. This all got started back in 1979. That was when this whole event began, because it was then that Bill Munsey was driving the Blue Blaster down on San Diego's Mission Bay. And unfortunately for Bill, the boat blew a motor and he went dead in the final heat. And if you've ever been to San Diego, you know on the front straightaway, right across from start-finish line, there's that little island. I don't know the name of it, but it's right out in the middle of San Diego's Mission Bay. And you see it in the background, but Bill started to drift toward the shoreline over by the start-finish line. And as he did that, fans were walking out in the water to fend off the boat and to make sure that it didn't run ashore. It was dead in the water, and Bill was out of the cockpit standing on the front of the boat. Well, there was a picture taken by Bill Osborne back in the day, and the picture showed all these people in the water, and it showed Bill Munsey on the front of the boat, on the front pickle fork, and he was standing up there. But what nobody really noticed was at the back of the boat, there was a father with a young son, and it was a young man and his father that used to attend the San Diego races together. And as the boat drifted in, the father took the young man and carried him out and put him on the deck of the Atlas Van Lines. Well, you know exactly where this is going right now, because that young boy was 4 years old. His name was Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie, of course, went on to become a 7-time NASCAR Series champion and one of the newer members of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Well, through a PR contact and a wanting to get Jimmie Johnson coaching on how to deal with the media and how to deal with the press, he was hooked up with Hendrick Motorsports and John Love, who had also helped a young man by the name of Chip Hanauer with the same process of being able to deal better with the media and how to handle it, because there was going to be a lot of media attention, etc., etc. End of the day, Jimmie Johnson got to know Chip Hanauer. So at one point, Chip Hanauer and Jimmie Johnson found themselves on a Hendrick Motorsports jet going to a function somewhere, and this conversation came up that Jimmie Johnson remembers being a very young boy and being placed on the deck of Bill Muncie's Atlas Van Lines at the 1979 race on Mission Bay. One thing led to another. There was a picture of it. It got showed to Jimmie Johnson. He says, "That's me in the yellow hat." And the rest was kind of history from there. Chip Hanauer got a hold of the Hydroplane Raceboat Museum, and obviously Jimmie went on to have a tremendous NASCAR career. When he was 4 years old, he was placed on the deck of the Atlas Van Lines, and it all culminates right now. Jimmie Johnson is once again on the deck of that same Atlas Van Lines, but he's not on the deck this time. He is in the cockpit. He came out this morning with David Williams aboard the Pan-Pac, and he got acclimated to the race course, but now he is going to come out solo in Bill Muncie's Atlas Van Lines. It was 1979 when the young man was placed on the deck. At some point, we're going to pull up the picture and show you the photo from 1979. It's pretty good. Just this little 4-year-old boy with a bright yellow hat with his dad. And I'm sure it was an exciting moment to be standing on the deck of Bill's Blue Blaster back in the day. But what a moment he's got right now. That's him in the cockpit. You are looking right at him. A couple of crew members there on the deck. And he is going to come out here solo in Bill Muncie's Blue Blaster from 1979, the same boat he, at the age of 4, was standing on the deck of at the very back. Those of you who know the picture there. And now you see Bill Muncie standing on the front of the boat, but look toward the back, the lower left corner of the picture. That little boy with the yellow hat is Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR Series champion. And he's there with his father. That is his father, I believe, on the right-hand side with the baseball-type cap on. But that is NASCAR legend Jimmie Johnson sitting on the deck of the Blue Blaster. And right now, he is sitting in the same place, just about 25 feet to the right. And he's sitting in the cockpit, and he's going to come out and take a run around the Ted Jones race course. Pretty big moment right here, actually. And we saw Jimmie this morning at the driver's meeting. He was excited. And this is just a big moment here. Jimmie Johnson is just a huge name. For those of you who follow NASCAR, he won those 7 NASCAR Series titles driving for Hendrick Motorsports. And I don't have to say this to people who know the sport. That was the number 48 Chevrolet, and anybody who follows NASCAR knows that. That was Jimmie Johnson. But long before that, he was standing on the deck of the Atlas Van Lines as a 4-year-old boy. And now it appears the crew members have stepped away from the boat, and I think we are just about ready to have Jimmie Johnson come away. And here he goes. He's going to try and fire up this thing. This is the first piece to the puzzle. Come on, Jimmie, you can get her rolling. They have schooled him on this. And this is not the easiest thing on the planet to do, but the boat is moving. Come on, Jimmie. There it goes. There it goes. Almost had it. Almost had it. Oh, thought he did that time. He started it many, many times on the trailer, but what you learn, and these drivers have told me, those who do this, and even in the vintage boats, it's one thing to start it on a trailer when there's no load on the propeller and no load on the motor, but when you put it in the water, it's an entirely different ball game. Almost. He's just so close to getting it. Come on, Jimmie. There we go. There we go. Now, I think what you're going to see is David Williams come away from the dock in the Griffin Budweiser and go out and kind of lead him around the race course. But Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion, has successfully lit the candle in Bill Muncie's Blue Blaster, and he is on the Ted Jones race course. And here comes the Griffin Budweiser away. We see, and you're going to hear the big Griffin fire. You're looking at Jimmie Johnson right now in the Atlas van lines, but away from the dock now comes David Williams in the Griffin Budweiser. I think the plan is for Dave to go out and pull up alongside Jimmie and kind of lead him around the race course, even though he was on it earlier today. There you're getting a good look at Jimmie with that bright orange helmet as he heads up the backstretch. How great is it? Forget the whole Jimmie Johnson thing just for one moment. How good is it to have the Blue Blaster and the Griffin Budweiser back on Lake Washington? This is quite a sight in and of itself. There you saw Jimmie taking the left hand, and he was raising the left arm there and waving at fans on the log boom. Yeah, and David's coming up behind him, and David's coming with a whole lot more speed. Yeah, and David's coming up behind him, and David's coming with a whole lot more speed. And he will pull up alongside Jimmie Johnson in the Atlas van lines. But Jimmie's doing a great job. He's definitely got the buoys. He's found the race course. And he's going to come off the top, square it up, and he's going to have David Williams come right up alongside. And you know, Bill Muncie used to always say when he drove that, he says, I can hear that Griffin coming. I can hear it coming. So I think Jimmie finally just got to hear the Griffin Budweiser. There you go right there. What a sight. Jimmie Johnson in the Atlas van lines. Now I see the rooster tail stand up a little bit on the Atlas van lines. Jimmie found the gas pedal. I think he was just sitting there waiting for David to show up and catch up to him. But he's doing a great job making a nice arc through the corner stuff. The Atlas van lines and the Griffin Budweiser with the added feature of Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR Series champion, behind the wheel. And what a moment for publicity around H1 Unlimited. This is good stuff right here. Today is the co-owner of Legacy Motor Club, and Legacy Motor Club currently features 2 entries on the current NASCAR Cup Series. And we talk about those 7-time NASCAR Series championships. Johnson's the only driver to win 5 consecutive series titles from 2006 to 2010. Oh, he's got his foot in it now. Jimmie's really got it up and running. How about that? Well, he's never had a ride in an unlimited hydroplane. He had that about 2.5 hours ago. And now he's driving the famous Blue Blaster and apparently feeling pretty good. He kind of punched his foot in it. We'll see what kind of a rooster tail he kicks up coming out of the corner. And here he goes again. Jimmie's got the rooster tail kicked up. They turned that lap at 92 miles per hour. Not half bad at all. I want to thank the stat man, Nick Kish, coming up with lap speeds for us here as they're at the top end of the course. I'm telling you what, this almost looks like back in the day racing. Now you got the Griffin pulling out in front. You see lots of lane space there. Now keep an eye on Jimmie, because the last time he came down, the rooster tail stood up, and here he goes again. This is a good hard charge to the line. Jimmie Johnson and David Williams. Wow. I can't imagine what is going through Jimmie Johnson's mind right now as he does this. Does he think back all the way back? He apparently definitely remembers the incident standing on the back of the boat. So he remembers that. Look at the rooster tail stand up again. Now David in the Griffin Budweiser will pull him alongside. Turn that lap at 97 miles per hour. Are we sniffing the 100 mile per hour mark here? Either way, this has just been terrific. And this time, when they come across start-finish line, for you fans who love the roar of unlimited hydroplane racing in the past, we'll be quiet and listen to them fly. .699 on that last lap. We'll see what that one they just turned did. Turned that lap at 96.819, I believe it was. Coming off the corner one more time. Jimmie Johnson, how successful is this guy in NASCAR? He had 86 career wins, and he is tied with, well, you want to go back a few years, tied with Cale Yarborough for 6th all-time in NASCAR history, but he's the only driver to win 5 consecutive series championships from 2006 to 2010. He's a pillar in the NASCAR community. Arguably one of the biggest names ever. They're getting a white flag this time, so they're going to go around one more time. One more time. Just look at them. Wow. Turn that one at 94.266. This is pretty good stuff. For those of us of a certain vintage, sometimes it's just want to sit back and watch this. Because whether it's Jimmie Johnson or David Williams or Jim Kropfeld and Bill Muncy, it takes us back so many years to when these were the boats that were fighting it out. on the Ted Jones race course, and so many times we saw that Atlas Van Lines and that Griffin Budweiser. Checkered flag flies this time. Jimmie Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion on the inside in the Atlas Van Lines. David Williams in the Griffin Bud. Who's going to get down here first? Oh, it's going to be close, but it's going to be Jimmie Johnson is going to take the checkered flag. Wow. There's been many times when we have watched the vintage boats come out here on Lake Washington. They put on a terrific show each year. And this was nothing different, but I honestly might say that might be the fastest laps we've seen. Last lap was 95.299, 95.299. I don't think Jimmie wants to come in. He's still kind of got his foot in it a little bit. And he's running up, and like you see David Williams back there in the Griffin going, you know, this is when we normally slow it down and bring them back in. He had a little bit of an issue getting it started, but he stuck with it. He knew what to do. He got it done, and this has been an extremely successful moment here on Lake Washington for Jimmie Johnson, for the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum. We want to thank David Williams. I think Jimmie's liking this. He's coming down hard again. When he came across the line that time, there was a black flag hanging, and I think Jimmie's having fun. But thank you to David Williams. Thank you to the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum for their part in pulling this together. A lot of work was done by the teams down at the museum, and specifically David Williams, Brad Haskin, and all the volunteers down there. David Williams has found his way back to the pit area in the Griffin Budweiser, and Jimmie's on a cool-off lap after the cool-off lap. This is his second cool-off lap, and he's having fun, I think, over there in front of the log boom. So we have a 6-lap average, how about this, of 95.424 miles per hour. 95.424 is the 6-lap average for Jimmie Johnson in the famous Atlas Van Lines Blue Blaster. And now he's going to come by the start-finish line here. He's been waving to everybody. I'm going to assume he's going to be waving at us. Those of you here on the shore, give it up for Jimmie, because this is when boats had open cockpits and you could interact with the driver. They could see you and vice versa. And I believe he's waving, got his hand up. Jimmie looking good. The boat looks good, he looks good, there's a wave. What a moment. I just think that's really good. And back it down now, Jimmie. Jimmie. There. These things don't stop that quick. And he just kept rolling in there, but he got it shut down. And how about that? Now we got the camera right there on him. We'll get a close-up here of Jimmie Johnson as he brings the boat back to the dock. But what a moment there for all of hydroplane racing and NASCAR as well, but especially for Jimmie Johnson. And thank you to Seafair, thank you to Jimmie Johnson, thank you to the Hydroplane and Raceboat Museum for pulling this off. The 1977 Blue Blaster. I don't think Jimmie wants to get out. I think Jimmie likes it right there. He clearly is the only guy I've seen in recent history that's taken a cool-off lap after the cool-off lap. I don't think he wanted to come in. But obviously he knows how to drive, and he went out this morning with David Williams and the Pan Pack, saw where the race course was, kind of got a feel for how the boats move around a little bit, and sent him out. He fired it up, and I am sure he had a whale of a good time. And it all started in 1979 at the San Diego Bay Fair when Bill Munsey blew an engine in the final heat, drifted close to shore, and a young man on the shoulders of his father was placed on the deck of the Atlas van lines. That was 1979, and it culminated with this, that 4-year-old boy growing up, becoming a 7-time NASCAR champion and climbing in the cockpit behind the wheel of that very same Atlas van lines. There he goes. He gets out of the boat. I think he's excited. He got a little fist bump going on there. There, and he gets a congratulatory handshake from one of the crew members. He's standing in there. I tell you what, he just looks like Munsey standing in the deck of that thing. Standing in the cockpit there. Great, great show. You can see the crowd that has gathered around the docks down there in the pit area. A lot of people down there, a lot of press. Kind of a crowd has definitely assembled. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a word with Jimmie. I know we have our Brent Hall is down in the area there. Our camera people are down there. And if at all possible, we will get a word with Jimmie Johnson. There was a lot of talk prior to this event about Jimmie and him coming and so forth, and all I can say is at the drivers meeting when I saw him this morning around the Atlas van lines, he seemed to be an extremely approachable individual. I know there was a lot of pictures taken at the drivers meeting this morning, people going up and taking a quick selfie with him, and he was certainly open to any and all of that. I did not get an opportunity to really speak with him, so I can't speak to that firsthand, but he seemed to be enjoying the experience, and I think he was enjoying the H1 Unlimited drivers meeting until David realized they were 15 minutes away from them being on the water, and he kind of scurried him out of there and said, "We got to get a driver's suit on." So the boat is back to the dock, I think. Yeah, the Griffin Budweiser has been pulled out of the water. It got back first. Jimmie Johnson, 86 career victories, tied with Cale Yarborough for 6th on the all-time NASCAR win list. Now, this is the type of information that we get from the stat man. The stat man came over this morning and says, you do realize that Jimmie Johnson has 86 career victories. If you take those 2 digits and put them the other way, it's 68, and that's how many victories Dave Villwock has in H1 Unlimited racing. The stat man never sleeps. He's always on top of his game. Quite the media crunch going on down in our Stan Sayers Memorial pits, as Jimmie Johnson has just made a very successful, well, it's his debut in unlimited hydroplane racing, and I think his debut is the end of his career in unlimited hydroplane racing. But what a terrific moment for everybody involved. And we are working. We've got a plan and a backup plan, I understand, to get an interview with Jimmie Johnson. So I'm sure right in the middle of it is our Brent Hall down there. And but it is quite the media crunch. We're working on getting some other cameras in a little closer. And I don't know how long Jimmie Johnson is going to be here. I'm told he's leaving today. Now, what time that's happening, I don't know, but hopefully he doesn't have to get out of here too quick, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to talk to Jimmie Johnson after what was a very successful event here at the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair, with a big highlight with 7-time NASCAR Series champion Jimmie Johnson taken to Lake Washington. Some of this in perspective, maybe we can try and do this here and I know they're going to jump in here as soon as we get an interview, but as we await to see if we can catch the young man. Back in the day, and it was before the Griffin Budweiser and the Atlas Van Lines, on a 3-mile race course here in Seattle. On a 3-mile race course here in Seattle, the minimum qualifying speed was 100 miles per hour. On a 2.5-mile race course like we ran in the Tri-Cities back in the day, it was 95 miles per hour. Well, this is a 2-mile race course, so you might assume then that the qualifying speed would then drop down to 90 miles an hour. Well, again, I want to bring up, thanks to Nick Kish, the stat man, a 6-lap average for Jimmie Johnson of 95.424 miles per hour. And I'm laughing because we've got an H1 official down here seeing what kind of work that Nick Kish does. And he's just, it's what Nick do. It's what he does. But quite the media crunch down there. Our Brent Hall is in the middle of it, and he's going to try and get us an interview with what was, like I said, a very successful run by Jimmie Johnson. All right, what we're going to do here until such time as we can get our arms around Jimmie Johnson, we are going to step away here for just a moment. Do not go away. We are working through a media crush down there. We will get him. Stand by. We will have Jimmie Johnson at some point. We're trying to get him as soon as we can, but until we get there, we'll step away for just a moment. We're going to play some music. I'm sure we'll keep the video rolling. Stay with us. We'll get to Jimmie Johnson. Back here on the start-finish line on Lake Washington, it is the 2025 Apollo Mechanical Cup at Seafair. My name is Brad Luce. We are on the H1 Unlimited live stream. We have just seen a terrific exhibition run by seven-time NASCAR champion Jimmie Johnson aboard the very famous Blue Blaster that was driven by Bill Muncie, the Atlas Van Lines. It was a great show. It was a great conclusion to a story that started on San Diego's Mission Bay in 1979. There is a media crunch going on down there in the pit area, as you see on the screen there. We are going to get our interview with Jimmie Johnson. We're not sure when we're going to be able to work our way through that sea of people. We've got camera people in there, and we will indeed have that interview. But for right now, we are going to step away. The air show is going to take center stage here at the Seafair celebration on Lake Washington, so we will step away. But when we come back, we will go Grand Prix America hydroplane racing, and we will definitely have that interview with Jimmie Johnson. So stay with us. The air show is up next. We'll go boat racing in a couple of hours. This is Brad Luce on the start-finish line, checking out for right now. We'll be back.